Most people find the idea of talking to their partner about money to be an extremely difficult task. Between different ideas of what each other might want to use their money for and secret credit cards or bank accounts, there's a lot of reasons why people don't like talking about money. Unfortunately, this lack of communication surrounding money can often lead to feelings of mistrust or resentment, which is why money is cited as one of the most common reasons for divorce. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Tyler Warlow and I go by The Mengineer. I make videos on how to improve your life through your confidence, capabilities, and overall happiness. Today's video is going to be about talking about money with your partner, from why you should to how you should go about doing it. This is going to apply to you whether you are in a brand new relationship or a long-term partnership. If this video sounds interesting to you, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to join me along in this self-improvement journey. Now, there's one thing to note, that money is a complex topic, and so there is no way that I can possibly cover every single point in this video. If you have any questions or ideas that you would like to see discussed more, please be sure to leave a comment down below so I know. Additionally, I'm just some guy on the internet. I'm not an expert in this, so please make sure you do your own research before going into any other decisions. With that covered, let's cover some of the basics. The first thing that I want to point out is there are generally two types of money personalities. There are spenders and there are savers. The truth is, you're usually somewhere along this spectrum. You're never completely a saver or completely a spender. But generally speaking, you're going to lean towards one or the other more. Having two people that are savers is probably one of the most ideal situations that you can end up with, as it's going to set you up for success in terms of saving a lot of your money. However, you need to make sure that you remember to live a balanced life and that you still do things that you enjoy. One of the more common scenarios that you're going to see is that one person in the relationship is a spender and the other is a saver. And the unfortunate side of this is that it tends to lead to a lot of conflict. You have one partner who feels like it's important to save versus another partner who feels like it's important to get to use the money that they worked hard for. A lot of times, this can cause communication issues where the different partners feel like they can't really trust one another. A pretty common problem in this scenario is that each other's partners start to feel judged by one another, with the saver feeling like they can't save or that their partner is spending too much, and the spender feeling like they're constantly being judged for their decisions. However, there are ways to address this, which I will talk about in a few moments. Now, one of the less common scenarios, but is still a pretty bad one to be in, is having two spenders. This is a dangerous situation because this is setting you up in a way where it's making it less and less likely that you'll be able to set yourself up for financial freedom. When you have two spenders, it is highly likely that you're going to lead yourself to personal debt, as people will usually spend money that they don't have and put it on credit cards. When you have two people who just feel like spending, this can just lead to a snowball effect until they're in so much debt that they are overwhelmed and don't know how to get out of it. But what about you? Are you a spender or a saver? And why do you lean that way? Let me know with a comment down below. So no matter what your personal situation is, whether you have two savers, a spender and a saver, or two spenders, it's important to make sure that you talk about money regularly in your household. There are several reasons that you want to do this. First off, it makes sure that you're each on the same page and keeps an open line of communication with one another. The more open your communication, the higher the level of trust. With more trust, there's less judgment, so people don't feel as inclined to hide decisions and they can be more honest about how they're spending their money. On top of that, having regular conversations makes it so that one person in the partnership isn't dependent on the other to understand or make financial decisions. There's a pretty common scenario where one person in the household handles all the financial decisions. But what if something happens to the partner that makes all those financial decisions, whether it's divorce or some sort of accident, that then leaves the other partner in a state where they need to make financial decisions, but they don't have the understanding or knowledge to do so? This can lead to some pretty unfortunate circumstances where people make bad decisions with their money and are left in a spot where they have none or even more debt than they did before. By talking regularly, you can both answer and talk to each other about questions that you might have, so that way you both have an understanding of how the money is handled and what to do if one person is not able to make those decisions. By making sure that you talk about money regularly, you're actually normalizing it. Unfortunately, talking about money is a fairly taboo topic because it causes a lot of people stress and anxiety. In America, nearly 77% of all Americans have some form of debt and 78% live paycheck to paycheck. So obviously these situations can lead to a lot of stress as a lot of Americans are just wondering how they're going to pay their next bill. But by having these regular discussions with money, y'all can be on the same team, and it makes it easier to figure out solutions and talk about ideas to help y'all address these problems and move forward together, rather than one person shouldering all of the burden while the other person goes and does whatever they want with their money and maybe puts you in a worse situation. By being on the same page, you can more effectively work together to solve your issues and move forward in a stronger position. There's some pretty common reasons why a lot of people don't want to talk to their partner about money. A pretty common one is that one partner feels like it always leads to an argument. Whether this has been something that they've experienced themselves in past relationships or in the current relationship, they might feel like anytime money gets brought up, it just ends up leading to an argument and it's never a civil discussion. So of course, why would someone want to bring something up if they just feel like it's going to lead to a fight? It is also pretty common for one partner or the other to feel judged in their decisions. And that can go both ways, whether it's feeling judged for not spending money or feeling judged for spending money in a way that they felt was enjoyable. A lot of times, especially if someone leans very strongly to one side or the other, it can come across like the other partner doesn't understand and judges them for their decisions. So why would you want to talk to someone if they are just judging you over it? And finally, one of the hardest reasons why people don't want to talk about money is that they feel like their partner uses it as a way to control them. This can unfortunately be a pretty common power dynamic where people try to use money to control their other partner, whether it's through restriction of it or controlling the different financial decisions, as I mentioned earlier. So given all these reasons, it's pretty understandable why people might not want to talk about money, because there's even more than what I just listed. But let's say that you want to move past that and you want to start opening up the conversation, whether for both of your benefits or for you to learn more yourself. How do you go about doing that? First off, you shouldn't try and force a conversation about money if it's really not the best time for it. I really don't recommend starting the discussion about money when it's focused around a financial decision or purchase that one party made on their own. A lot of times, all this does is serve to make the person responsible end up feeling defensive and attacked about the money. It's important to let it come up naturally. For instance, if you are considering starting a long-term relationship, that might be a good time to start discussing money. If you're having a conversation about what you want the next steps in your relationship to be, that might be a good time to bring it up. Ask them what their ideas are around money and how they would like to handle that in the future. If you're not on the same page about it, it's a good time to talk about it and see if it's something that you can come to a compromise on. If not, you might want to really think about how seriously you want to pursue this relationship. A lot of times, if you cannot get on the same page financially, it's just a sign of worse conflict later down the road. It's always good to start off a discussion about money on a positive note. Sometimes it can be good to say, "Oh, I saw that thing that you did with your money recently. I think that was a good decision." Or if they spent something and you thought that it was a good idea, you could talk to them about how you thought it was a good use of their money and use that as a stepping stone. Always try to start off on a positive foot because it tends to make people less defensive and more open to the conversation. When you first start talking about money with your partner, you want to start small. You don't want to immediately dive in and try to set this super strict budget that you are inevitably going to fail because you guys haven't really gotten on the same page as to what you want. So start off small with this conversation. That can be with questions like, what are your expectations around money, or what are some things that are important to you? By determining things that you both think are important, that can help you really hone in on the things that you don't want to cut out of your life. These things are going to give both of you happiness, so that way you guys know that those things are off limits in future money discussions. Because if you start cutting out things that each of you enjoy, that's one of the things that can lead to resentment later on. Once you've gotten those small stepping stones in place, that's when you want to use future conversations to build on those topics. Some topics that you can cover once you've built up to it are: what are your financial priorities? How are you going to pay down debt? What are you willing to cut out of your spending? And finally, you can be open and honest and have each of your accounts all out in the open for each other to see. This can be a really hard step for some people to do, so for some people it might be recommended to just start out with some form of a joint account that makes sure that y'all can pay the bills or things like that together, but you get to have your own separate checking account for personal spending. But again, in my opinion, it's best to have those accounts all out on the table so you can build that trust with one another. For some people, they don't need that to build trust, but for other people, it can really help give them the peace of mind that the money is being used as intended. Once you've started discussing these various topics, you're going to want to try and make this a regular conversation. A lot of people feel really uncomfortable talking about money because it's not something that they do regularly. But trust me, the more often that you do it, the easier that it's going to become. And honestly, once you get more and more comfortable with it and you know what you need to cover, these conversations can honestly be kept down to like 15 minutes once you have it good and going. My fiance and I personally try to have a discussion about money once a month. We try to make it something that is comfortable for both of us, so we like to go to different coffee shops and just have the discussion. You want to speak to each other open and honestly, and sometimes that can lead to people feeling defensive. But as long as you make sure your partner understands that you are not bringing things up to judge them or attack them, but just to be on the same page as them, that can be an open and honest conversation. It is extremely important that you do not use money to blame, accuse, or hold things over one another's heads. This is about the future of your relationship together, not the past. So there's no point in holding things over one another's head because, again, that's just going to lead to resentment and not wanting to talk about the money and address the problems in the first place. Additionally, you're going to want to make sure that you're not being overly strict or rigid with one another because then the relationship is no fun. You want to give each other some level of freedom and flexibility. For instance, me and my fiance each get a certain amount of money per month that we are allowed to spend however we would like to spend it. No judgment from one another. You guys are a team, and in order to be a team, you need to be open and honest and have these conversations regularly. That way you can tackle your problems together and move towards financial independence. But that's going to bring us to the end of today's video, everyone. If you found the information in this video to be helpful or informative at all, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to join me along in this self-improvement journey. If you have any of your own thoughts, ideas, or opinions, please be sure to let me know with a comment down below. If you'd like to see more videos like this one where I talk about financial topics, be sure to check out this video right here where I talk about how to make your first budget. If you'd like to see more of my most recent videos, be sure to check out this video right here. But until the next time, this is the Mengineer, signing off.